Happy Black Friday, everyone. What we've got here is, well, that's my finger is what we've got. But what we have here, and I've posted this on my Facebook page here, nice big color version, is a Jupiter talisman, a planetary talisman of Jupiter. Now, this is just a homemade one that I sort of threw together for my Zoom workshop on making a Jupiter talisman. And this is about as technical as I can get on a live YouTube and Facebook thing. You'll see it's in 4 sections there, which are meant to be sort of folded up like this, and put together like that. So it's a 4-sided talisman that eventually folds into a single square. Now, we were talking about gratitude and other kinds of Jupiterian things yesterday, and so it occurred to me that there's also the Thoth Tarot's Jupiter talisman there. Notice the colors. This is probably not the best deck's reproduction of colors, but you can see that those same colors sort of dominate my Jupiter talisman there. I'll talk more about those colors in a minute. But first, just as a way of introduction, I wrote the introduction, or I offered the introduction. I was paid to write the introduction to what was to have been the Weiser reprint of Israel Regardie's How to Make and Use Talismans. The project never manifested with Weiser anyway, and there's another publisher, a small publisher, that has reprinted it, and I've actually put the link to that also on my Facebook page, in case you're interested. So I'm just going to read a little section of my introduction to Regardie's Make and Use Talismans, just as way of introduction here. Early in January of 1975, in an old and stuffy little occult bookstore in North Long Beach, it was actually called Mercury Bookstore, I purchased How to Make and Use Talismans by Israel Regardie. I trusted Regardie, having read several of his classic magical texts. This little book, however, was different. It was actually a how-to book of practical magic. Regardie's sane and straightforward explanation of the fundamentals of talismanic magic instantly dispelled my superstitious doubts. Remember, this 1975. This is even this is in January. This is months before, like 9 months before I even joined the OTO. His generous offering of charts, diagrams, and illustrations, which I promptly copied and pasted into my magical diary, made it a treasure trove of easy-to-use information. I couldn't wait to graduate from student to practitioner. After reading it through several times, I knew exactly where I needed to begin. In Chapter 2, Regardie suggests that planetary talismans can be helpful in overcoming unfavorable aspects that might be afflicting one's astrological chart. I knew I had difficult aspects in my natal chart, so I contacted my brother Mark, the astrologer, to see which planet could use a little extra help. All of them, he coldly informed me. But because it rules my chart, he suggested I first try to make friends with the moon. With Regardie's little book as my guide, I started gathering symbols for a lunar talisman on January 23rd. These dates are all in my diary, so it was easy for me to recreate this timeline. At midnight on the 27th of January, after anointing it with drops of dew that had formed in the moonlight, falling on my 1952 Chrysler Windsor, I consecrated the talisman with as much ceremony as I was capable of devising. My moon talisman was the most beautiful thing I'd ever made. It was a double circle model, and this would be like a double, well, let's see here. That'd be like a double square model. Let's see. It was a double circle model made of cardstock. I extracted the sigils of the lunar spirit and intelligence from the kamiya in the book. Okay, a kamiya is a magical square. And let's see if I have a kamiya of the moon handy. Hang on. Well, I thought I did. Well, not finding it. The kamiya of the moon would, maybe this is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No. Anyway, that's a kamiya of Venus. It's 7 by 7. A kamiya of the moon is 9 by 9. Okay. And the numbers in a kamiya of the moon would have all of the numbers from 1 to 9, or excuse me, from 1 to 81, which is the 9 times 9, filling in the squares so that each line, horizontal, vertical, and diagonal, main diagonals, all come to the same number. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Excuse me. Let's see. So you extract the well, I'll explain in a minute. As you can see, I'm really prepared on this day after Thanksgiving. And I extracted the sigils of the planet, sigils of the lunar spirit, and the intelligence from the kamiya that Regardie had in the book, and carefully drew them in silver paint against the field of deep violet drawing ink on the front and back of one of the circles. On the other circle, I painted the silver image of the elephant god Ganesha. Now remember, this is 1975. I wasn't a Ganesha nut or anything else before this, okay? Elephant god Ganesha, to whom the moon is sacred. On one side, and on the other side, the appropriate planetary and geomantic symbols. Around the perimeter, I wrote in Hebrew the divine and angelic names, and on the reverse side, part of the 72nd Psalm that says, abundance of peace as long as the moon endureth. When it was finished, I lovingly slipped it inside a linen bag I had sewn with violet thread. On the flap, I embroidered a silver crescent moon. Now, Regardie made all of these suggestions in that little book about a verse that might be appropriate, and what spirits and how to extract the spirits' names off of the chimea. He made all of the suggestions in the book, but I had to do it. I had to do the homework. I had to look it up. I had to find out about Ganesha. I had to find out I had to dig in my Bible to find that verse that I thought was just absolutely perfect. So creating the talisman set me on a magical quest, on a magical education. It wasn't just creating a piece of art and calling it a talisman. It was creating a talisman and then throwing it on a piece of art. I was very proud of myself, but I still didn't feel like much of a magician. I did carry it around for a few days and felt tremendously empowered, but empowered to do what? I didn't know. I wasn't sure what I should do next. The answer came, as so many important answers do, while I was taking a shower. I should make all of the planetary talismans. And so I did, and I tell how I did all of that, and on what days I did it, and how I consecrated them, and everything else. And if you're interested in that, it is including, it's a chapter in Allow Me to Introduce. Okay. Now, where was I? I was talking about, let's see if it's still up. I was talking about this. Now, this is that's my example of a Jupiter talisman. Okay. Now, the chimea involved for Jupiter is the 4x4. Okay, why 4? 4 is because the sphere of Jupiter is number 4 on the tree of life. Okay, that's not only just number 4, everyone. It's a level of consciousness that's so high that it is almost reaching Godhead, represented by 1, 2, and 3. Actually, 4 is the highest Sephira that's below the abyss. That is a very high level of consciousness, universal consciousness. And when dealt with universally, it is the planetary sphere of Jupiter, which is the same as what the Greeks tried to metaphorically express by the powers of the king of the gods, Zeus, which later became Jupiter to the Romans. It's the demiurge, it's the God, it's Jehovah. It's the 4-letter word of Kabbalah, Yod-He, Vav-He. Zeus, Jupiter, Jehovah are the demiurge. So high up that it actually thinks it's the creator God. And indeed it is the creator God. It's the giver of all the things that manifest below the abyss. It's the head honcho of below the abyss. And if you think that all there is that universe that's below the abyss, then that is the freaking king of gods. It's the God that thinks it's God, but isn't God, because it has no idea that there were 3 other concepts, including the sphere of Saturn, that came before it. It's like sitting on the top point of a tetrahedron, looking around saying, Well, I must be God because I don't see anybody else around here. And all my brothers and sisters, Mars, Apollo, Venus, Aphrodite, Mercury, Hermes, Luna, Artemis, all my brothers and sisters look up to me as the king of the gods. Well, that's why 4. So you make a chimea of 4. And to tell you the truth, I'm not mathematically skilled. There's a formula for making chimeas that a third grade mathematician could probably figure out. But as it stands, a chimea is a square formulated based upon a single digit. In this case, the single digit is 4. So you make a square 4 by 4. That gives you 16 squares within it. And you arrange those numbers 1 through 16 in such a way that they balance perfectly. Each line comes to the same number. Each column comes to the same letter. And each full diagonal comes to the same, comes to the same number. And in the case of 4, a square 4 by 4, that number, when all of the numbers are arranged in such a way as they all add up to a same number, that number is 34. So 34 is a very big, 34 is the root. 34 resonates. All things Jupiterian, all things demiurgic, all things Zeus-like, all things Jupiter-like. So in the way of looking at things Kabbalistically, we have God names, the particular facet of the Godhead itself that represents, that's at the root of this fourness. That would be a God name. And in this case, the God name for the chimea, or for the sphere of Jupiter, the God name is Elab, spelled A-L, which is God, and Ab, A-B, which is Father. Elab. And in Hebrew, Elab adds to 34, and it means Father God. Are light bulbs going off over your head? Are you starting to kind of get it? So the angel names, and believe me, they were formulated by somebody, some Kabbalists that said, okay, the angel names and the intelligence names are going to have probably something to do with the characteristic of the number 34, multiple of 34, so that everything is in harmony. So the spirit of Jupiter that works for the God, that facet of the Godhead, Elab, is Hismael, excuse me. And it adds up to 136, which is 4 times 34. So 136 is a big number for Jupiter. Now, Hismael means the acquirer. And yesterday we were talking about what we're grateful for, what we acquire, and what we give. So giver and receiver, the act of acquiring. And the intelligence of the sphere of Jupiter is Yophiel. And Yophiel also adds up to 136. Now, I don't even have to ask the question, did the number come first or did the name came first? Well, for Christ's sake, the number came first. And they made these names up by assigning the Hebrew letters to it. And you can do the same thing with any freaking number you want. As a matter of fact, you should probably play around with that and see the dynamics at work in your own. And Yophiel is called the beauty of God. Elab Hismael Yophiel. Then you, reduce the names of those angels by using the Kabbalah of the 9 chambers, which is you try to reduce the letters in the names of Elah and Yophiel and Ismael. You reduce them to their lowest digit mate. So Y would be or A would be a 1 or a 10 or a 100. So you find Yophiel's name in there and Elab's name in there. And then you can project them onto the Chimea until, let's see if I can get my, oh, if this comes up, I'll be so surprised. You project those, you make little sigils there. See those sigils down below? That's Elab, Yophiel, and Hismael. And they were created by drawing them onto the Chimea of Jupiter. Now that's the Chimea of Jupiter, the whole square. That circle with the cross in it is the seal of Jupiter. And it's an image that runs through between the circle and the cross there. Every one of the squares is honored with that. See, every square has a line going through it. That's the seal of Jupiter. And those are the seals of Elab, Ismael, and Yophiel. Now I've put them on I'll talk about those stars and stuff later, but that's how they got on there. Now, how do you whip up those spirits, those intelligences, those God names? You do it with your pencil. When you work out the squares, when you work out the sigils, when you create your talisman, you take your pencil, you take your pen, you take your brush or whatever it is you're using. That becomes your wand. And the simple act of you knowing what you're doing and doing it with a simple writing instrument is the act of invoking those intelligences, those spirits. Can't you see how the act of creating a talisman charges the talisman, literally creates it? Oh, sure, you can do a wonderful ceremony afterwards when it's all done, and you can baptize it, and you can feed it bodily fluids, you can do all sorts of things with it. But the actual charging of the talisman with the spiritual forces happens when you create it. Okay. Colors. Let's see. Somewhere I've got a color thing. Okay. You'll notice all the purples. Here are the traditional vibratory colors associated with the sphere of Jupiter. Now, each of the planetary spheres has its own set: king scale, queen scale, prince scale, princess scale. Jupiter are deep violet, blue, deep purple, and deep azure with yellow flakes. And I made the yellow flakes stars. Now, I've got a unicorn, which is one of the sacred animals to Jupiter. And there I just got a clip art of Jupiter, complete with his eagle and all the other Jupiter symbols. When you do your own, you gather up your own set of images and stuff that strike your fancy. Now you see that red sigil that I've put over on the chimea of Jupiter and the seal of Jupiter. Notice that red thing goes from 3 to 7 to 5. Now my name is Lon, okay, and L is 30. Well, there's not a 30 on here, but there is a 3. So using the Kabbalah of the 9 chambers, I represent my L by that 3, and I start my line there. Second letter in my name is O. And the O, or one of the O's anyway in Hebrew, is Oyin, which is 70. Well, there's no 70 represented there, but there is a 7. And N is Nun, which is 50. Now, this is a chimea that's so small, there isn't a 50, but there is a 5. And so there's my N. 375, L-O-N, on a chimea and symbol, seal of Jupiter, with all of those other goodies on there, including the colors that are vibrating. Those 4 things. Like that. I guess I'll do it this way. Those are folded over there, so it's front and back. And then however you want to do this, you fold it once again. So all of those goodies are in your talisman. A simple square talisman. And it's this that you then go ahead and do the formal magical charging ceremony of your choice, of your own device. Probably would incorporate a modular version of the hexagram ritual, because the hexagram rituals are associated with and invoke and banish the planetary spheres. Anyway, how about that? Other symbols and things associated by traditions with Jupiter are tin, Jupiter's metal, the eagle, unicorn, olive tree, amethyst and sapphire, the magic wand or scepter, cedar wood. I love cedar wood. Meditation upon friendliness and the vision of love. The power of advancing in life. You may want to add some of those images as well. Also, one thing to consider when you're contemplating what would be the most appropriate planetary talisman for you to use as far as your personal reason for incarnating in this life. In the initiatory trip up the tree of life, there's several main landmark initiatory steps. The first one, of course, being at the sixth Sephira, Tifereth, with the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. We could call that the first great magical crisis in a good way. The second one, and for all intent and purposes, the last one, is the crossing of the abyss, moving from 4 to 3. Crossing of the abyss makes one a master of the temple. And the master of the temple being above the abyss, maybe, here we go, being above the abyss is dwelling on a level that is no longer bound by the dimensional restrictions of the level of consciousness below the abyss. But everything that was gathered up, and physicists are, saying atoms have memory, okay? All of the momentum of your initiatory career to that point is seemingly lost. It's transcended, okay? But from below the abyss point of view, it's lost. But it doesn't disappear from below. You don't disappear from below the abyss, or the you that you used to think is you. There's one Sephira in particular that is your badge, is your representation, is your, from a below the abyss point of view, is your duty, the reason you incarnated. And so it seems, or it's been pictured as when you hit number 3, which is actually a part of number 2 and 1, a star falls beneath the abyss and lands in one of the Sephira that is where you would go to teach when you're a bodhisattva. Okay, so each of us have a pet Sephira below the abyss that is our platform for all of the goodies that we generated, that we learned in our initiatory career. When the real us makes it across there, the lesser us still has a universal cosmic job to do below the abyss. And so you might think about what is your, I won't say favorite, but it can be your favorite Sephira. But which one you resonate to, which one you feel is your job, which one you think you naturally are. Are you a warrior kind of guy? Are you a fierce mother kind of energy? Then maybe it's number 5. Are you a lover? Yeah, you might be number 7. Are you an intellectual? I've been made. Maybe you belong there in Hode in number 8. Anyway, that's my little talk about talismans for today, and that's where I'm going to leave it. And tomorrow we'll have some Saturday morning cartoons of some kind. Anyway, have a good Black Friday. Do something crazy. Don't buy anything. Matter of fact, give something away. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.